So the finals beta ended around the beginning of November, and I'm not going to lie to you boys, I really missed that game quite a lot. I miss it more than I thought I would, and today I kind of just wanted to talk about why I miss it so much and why I think it is actually going to do really well, even with how hard it is for games to kind of break into the FPS genre. If you are interested in more The Finals content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. The channel is pretty much going to be solely focusing on that game once it does finally launch, so make sure you don't miss out. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now, when the beta first dropped, I kind of thought I would pretty much just play it once or twice and sort of see what it's like, and then I thought I would essentially move on. That is generally how it goes with any new shooter. Even if they're really solid, they don't generally grab me. They don't really do anything, drastically different than the other shooters that I play, and therefore when I do try them out, I kind of just jump on, have a couple of games, and usually just think, yeah, that was pretty fun, and then proceed to never play it again. Now, I thought that was going to be the case once again with the finals. I thought I'd try it out, do a review, and then just move on, but it turns out that I got pretty much addicted to that game in the 10 days or so that it was out during the beta, and instead of playing 1 or 2 sessions, I probably played about 20 to 25 hours in those 10 days, which granted isn't a crazy amount of time, but for me, I'm a pretty busy guy. I run 3 different YouTube channels and work part-time. 2 hours a day roughly of playing a single game is actually a hell of a lot of time for me to be playing one game. Now, I think the reason that it got me so hooked and I genuinely became addicted to it is mostly to do with the unique game modes. That is something that really stood out to me in this game. Obviously, when it comes to pretty much every other shooter out there, at least in terms of the typical arcade shooters, because obviously the battle royales are kind of in their own genre, for example, but your Call of Duties, your Battlefield, your Halo, those sort of games, they all kind of have those typical 6v6 or so game modes, and obviously Battlefield's on the larger scale, but they're pretty much the same type of modes, those domination type of game modes or team deathmatch, and they're all generally, pretty similar to each other. Even when the actual rules of the match are pretty different, they all feel as though they're all in that same genre of game mode. Now, the modes in this game were completely opposite to that. They were stuff that I've never really played in any shooter that I've played before. Not to say that they are completely unique in that they've never been done or anything, but also the fact that it was 4 teams of 3 in each game rather than just 2 teams, it actually also added another element to it. You would run around with your team, but it wasn't just you guys against the other team. There was also 2 more teams to look out for. You'd often see 2 other teams fighting each other, and you would know, all right, we can go and third party that team and try and take the objective from them. It just added a whole different element to the game on top of what were already very unique game modes. Even if they were just 6v6, I still think those modes on their own are very unique compared to all the other shooters that I play, and the 4 teams of 3 just really threw another spanner in the works in terms of just making it even more unique than it already was. Now, something else that I've really enjoyed, and I didn't really get into this that much until later on in the beta, but this was the ranked tournaments that they had. Initially, when I was playing, I was just kind of playing the casual modes because I was still getting used to the game. I didn't actually think there was ranked in the beta because I just thought it's a beta, it's going to be just the casual game modes. Once I looked further into the game, I realized that ranked was in there, and not only the actual normal ranked mode, but there was the ranked tournaments as well. And to me, that is such an awesome addition to this game that I, again, haven't really seen all that much in many other games that I've played, where there is actually an in-game tournament that takes place where you are, involved in a tournament through the game. Usually the tournaments that take place in shooters are kind of held externally, and you have to be in a Discord server or whatever to do those tournaments. This game actually has them on their own, and that was yet another element that, again, I didn't really expect going into it, and once I started playing that, I pretty much could not stop doing those ranked tournaments. For anyone who didn't play the tournaments, how it works is that you pretty much just load into a game as you normally would, except instead of it putting you into a single game where it's, like I said, 4 teams of 3, it would pretty much load double the lobby size and then split it into 2 different games. So I would be in one game, but then there'd be another 12 people in a different game that is kind of in the same lobby, but we don't know what's going on in that game. Teams then get knocked out, and then we move on to the next game, which then brings the 2 winners of each of those initial games into the same lobby. So now it's the 2 winners from my match and the 2 winners from the other match in the same match, making it obviously harder than the first game because it's kind of almost survival of the fittest in a way, and it's going to bring all the top teams to the top of those lobbies. So then the second match, it puts you all into that same game. Then once again, the 2 winners from that team go on to the next round, and then the 2 winners of that go into a final where it is just one team versus another. So then the actual final game is actually drastically different to all of the other games because they're usually 4 teams of 3, whereas the final is literally just 3 on one team versus 3 on another team. So the tournaments were an awesome addition. I did not really know that that was in the game because, like I said, there has been other betas and stuff for this game, but I haven't actually played them. I think both of the other ones that have happened, I was away during those weekends. So this was actually my first time playing it, and I had no idea what to expect when it came to those tournaments. Now, something that kind of goes hand in hand with the tournaments was the general team play that you could feel throughout the game. This wasn't the type of game where you jump into a game and everyone's trying to get a bunch of kills and, you know, do their own thing. Everyone felt as though they were actually playing the objective. I feel like not many shooters are really like that anymore. There's obviously games here and there where you'll be on a team and everyone's trying to win, but when it comes to Call of Duty and even Battlefield, which is a lot more objective based, I do feel as though, and to be honest, I'm probably part of the problem, I feel as though most people just run around and they're trying to get kills, and that's completely fine. There's not anything necessarily wrong with that. It's more just that it is a breath of fresh air when you do get into a game that everyone's actually trying to win and everyone's like sweating on the objectives. I think just simply because it doesn't really happen all that much anymore, it makes it even more enjoyable when everyone is actually playing that way. Something that then adds to the team play even more is actually to do with the balancing and also the sort of, I guess you'd call it the class system. I'm not sure if there's an actual name for it just yet, but the light, heavy, and medium, I guess, classes that they have. That is once again another unique way of doing it, where we've seen that in plenty of games. There's always games where there's like heavy classes and stuff like that. But the fact that the character sizes are actually different depending on the class you choose, that was a really awesome touch. And then also how drastically different they all play from each other, because usually a heavy class in a different game, for example, they do play slightly different, but they just have maybe an extra 50 HP and they're just like a slight little bit slower or something. They have slower weapons. In this game, it's like the light class and the heavy class have about 200 HP difference between the two of them, and that felt really fun to try out all the different classes and kind of figure out which one you liked, but then also trying to figure out which ones, I guess, worked in tandem with the other classes. So if I saw my two teammates were playing as heavies, I thought, okay, I probably need to play as a light class here to try and have some sort of speed to our team. And so that on top of the just general team play and the objective based game modes and stuff like that, it all really tied together really well in tandem once again with, like I said, the tournaments and just the unique game modes. It all really bounces off each other really well, and it's almost like a flash in the pan type of moment where it's just the perfect storm. And all of these systems, if they were done individually, it might not be that good, but the fact they've done all of them at the same time, it works honestly as perfect as it has worked for me in any shooter that I've played in probably the last 5 to 10 years now. I think overall the reason I was so addicted to the game and why I genuinely miss it, I feel like I have genuine withdrawals from this game at the moment, is that it is just a genuine breath of fresh air in the shooter genre. Like I said earlier, a lot of shooters these days are very similar to each other, and that's not really a knock on those games because obviously the formula has been boiled down to what works and what people generally like to play. But I do think every now and then it is really fun to change things up. It's kind of the same with the whole battle royale movement where, you know, 5 or so years ago that was just blowing up and that became the next big thing. I think the reason that happened is because people got kind of bored of the typical, you know, Call of Duty multiplayer or the typical Battlefield games, and they wanted something a little bit more, I guess, competitive and a little bit, you know, you got to sweat to try and win those games. I think a lot of people like competition and they want there to be slightly higher stakes while still having an enjoyable game to play. And I feel like this is almost a mini version of that, where it's not quite as sweaty and serious as a battle royale game, because obviously if you die in a battle royale, you're done. You have to start the game over. It's not that serious. It's not that like stressful, but it is still a lot more stressful and I guess team-based than just playing Call of Duty multiplayer where you're just running around and trying to get kills. That really works for that game in my opinion, but I think it is really fun when there is something else, I guess an alternative out there to that typical, I guess, modern day shooter content. The game is meant to be launching this month and I'm actually recording this a little bit in advance to try and get ahead. So there's every chance we may actually have news on it already. And if we do, I'm sure I will cover it or have covered it already. I'm definitely going to be essentially maining this game once it launches. The only other game on my radar right now is XDefiant. So between these two games, I dare say either one of them or potentially both of them are going to be the focus of the channel for quite some time in the future. And I do think that with the finals meant to be launching this month and XDefiant isn't out until potentially early next year. If the finals does launch this month, I'm probably going to get addicted to this game and it's going to be pretty hard to take me away from it. So there is every chance this game becomes the focus of the channel for potentially years to come. I'm not really too sure. Obviously that's a big call to make. 3 months into the game, I may completely hate it. I don't actually know, but from what I experienced in the beta, I absolutely loved it. And I'm all but certain that I'm going to be making a lot of content on this game once it does finally launch. I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts on the game. If you guys did play the beta, let me know what I guess felt addictive to you about it. There is a lot of different elements that I think a lot of people really like, so be sure to let me know down in the comment section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.